call to order and report of members present and absent.
Hanson,
Yes.
Kane,
Yes.
McDermott,
Yes.
Parker,
Yes.
Slater. Here.
Special meeting compliance statement read.
I, the undersigned clerk of the Board of Education of the Alva Independent School District, Number 1 of Woods County, Oklahoma, certify that the notice of this date, time, and place of this meeting was given at least 48 hours prior to this meeting to the Woods County Clerk of Woods County, was mailed or delivered to all of those that have given written request, and paid the request fee for this notice of special meetings. I certify that at least 48 hours prior to this meeting, excluding Saturdays, Sundays, and holidays, notice of the date, time, place of this agenda was posted in prominent public view at the location of the meeting.
3, items of current business. 3.1, discussion with possible board action, vote to accept the audit report from Pat Carroll of the firm Charles W. Carroll, PA, concerning the 2018-19 audit.
Okay, Pat, can you hear us?
I can hear you.
Okay, we'll let you go ahead and give your presentation.
All right, thank you very much. This is your audit for the 2018-19 fiscal year. There are 2 opinion letters within this, and it's really odd for me. I don't know how you're seeing me, but what I'm seeing, my head is really big. I'll try not to get my finger up there too close to anything. The first letter is on the financial statement. It deals with the financial statements taken as a whole. Are the numbers correct? Is it presented properly? Is it presented on a continuous basis with the previous year? It's an unqualified opinion. That's what you want. You do not want a qualified opinion. Qualified opinion means we found either material misstatement or significant deficiencies in the way the financial statements are presented. But you are presented on a modified cash basis. Federal government wants you to be on an accrual basis of accounting. The modified cash is very conservative. You only count the money when you've actually received it, but you show any expenditure when you as a board approve the encumbrance. We may not have received the goods, we may not have written a check, but we're going to reduce our fund balance when you've approved that encumbrance. So it's a very conservative basis of accounting. That's what you want. Since it's not your money, it's public money. There are 3 major financial statements. There's an Exhibit A, B, and C. These are combined statements. Combines together your special revenues, multiple debt services if you have them, which you don't, and if you have a number of capital projects that be together also. It does show a fiduciary fund types, but you have the activity fund, you also have a gift fund, so it includes both of those. But it shows under the assets, the type of assets you have. It'll show liabilities, which can be warrants payable, or reserves for encumbrances, or amounts due to the activity funds, the little sub-accounts. The fund balances then are for restricted or unassigned. The only 2 that have the unassigned is going to be within that gift fund, within the fiduciary fund type and the general fund. All the rest of those have fund balances that are assigned for specific purposes. You can see under the debt service you had a negative. At the end of the year, after we'd paid off our debt, we hadn't collected enough money in our sinking fund to pay that off because of lack of collections or people who paid under protest, though we were lacking by $2,000. During the current 1920 year, we've received enough money to cover those dollars. Exhibit A or Exhibit B then is an income statement. Again, it's for the governmental fund types, your general, special revenue, debt service. There are no capital projects, but we've had them in the past, so I leave that balance in there to show that there are none. Trust and agency then only deals with your gift fund. It does not deal with the activity fund. The activity funds are not agency funds, they're more like trust funds. You've approved them as a board, which sub-accounts you have. You've approved how they can raise the money and how they can spend the money. But again, those are little trust accounts that are set up so it does not show up on your income statement. But it shows the major sources of revenue, the major types of expenditure for each fund, excess of revenues collected over under expenditures. You can see we had a decrease in our general fund. We had an increase in our special revenue funds. We also had a decrease in our debt service fund. Capital projects and the debt service are supposed to reduce as the years go on. You're going to collect money, you're going to pay those debts until that project's gone, or you've paid off those bonds. We have since paid off those bonds. Like I said, we had to use some of the general fund money at the end of the year, but we've now received that money and we need to transfer that back to the general fund, that portion that we did not use. We also had an adjustment to prior year encumbrances. In the general fund, that was an encumbrance or PL that we had set up, or you had set up as a reserve. We didn't receive those goods or services, so we never wrote that warrant for those, so that money's added back into that fund. We also had an estoppel warrant in the general fund, one that had been written, but it never went through, so we can cancel it and bring it back also. We also had transfers in, which would have been from the activity funds to into the general fund and also into the special revenue fund. Transfers out, that was to start up money into the activity fund and the child nutrition fund. Those are monies we transferred to give them cash to start those programs. We then had an excess or deficiency of revenues collected over under expenditures. We take that decrease or increase and add it to the previous year's balance, and it shows the money we had to go forward into the 19-20 year. That was your fund balance into the current fiscal year. Exhibit C is a budget to actual. It shows three different items into the general fund, special revenue, and debt service. It shows the original budget and the final budget. Then it also shows the actual amount, which I just showed you on Exhibit B. The reason we show both of these is you cannot spend more money than you have budgeted. Even if you've received it, unless it's brought to you as a board and a supplemental appropriation was set up and put into that fund, you can't spend those dollars. So if there's been an additional item, it would show up between the difference between the original and final budget, and it would have to have been approved by you as a board. Starting on page 7, going through page 14, bottom page numbers are your notes to financial statements. I think we've talked about this before. There's a lot of good information in there. It's not very good reading. If you haven't read it, I'd suggest you read it, but mark your spots. You may not want to start over. It's written by attorneys, it's written by accountants, and there's just a lot of verbiage in there. But it tells you a lot about your district, talks about your fund accounting, talks about the different funds you have and how they can raise the money and how it can be spent, talks about your basis of accounting, which is that modified cash basis, the budget and the budgetary accounting system that you're on, saying that you can't spend more money than you have budgeted. If we had any long-term debt, it would show up on page 10 under general long-term debt, which we had none. We don't have any of that left. We paid it off. The one item that I will bring up, if you do have debt coming up or if you have bonds you want to sell, people are going to know if you have any hidden liabilities. That would show up under page 13 and 14 where we talk about your teacher retirement. It shows that there is a retirement system set up by the school district, but that money is held by the state of Oklahoma. It also shows you on page 14, bottom page number 14, the very top paragraph shows you how much money your district's paid into teacher retirement this year and the last 2 years. The last item on here is going to be number 6 down there, the deficit fund balance. Talks about your sinking fund had a deficit balance of $2,225. And it gives an explanation as to why you had that deficit. So, Mr. Argo, if the State Department calls and said, why do you have the deficit? This is what you're going to tell them. After the notes, we have combining statements. There'll be Schedule A's, which deal with Exhibit A, the combining items, and Schedule B, which deal with Exhibit B, and C1, which deals with Exhibit C. Schedule A1 is a special revenue. It shows the assets on hand for your building fund and your child nutrition fund, any investments we had at the end of the year, liabilities we had outstanding, and then our restricted fund balance that we have remaining that went forward into the 19-20 year. A2 is a combining statement for your trust and agency. It shows the activity funds and it shows your gift fund. It shows the cash on hand, warrants payable, any items due to the outstanding or the activity fund sub-account groups, and then the restricted gift fund balance. It's really an unrestricted, but since it's an agency in this particular schedule, we're going to call it restricted. But it shows the monies that would be at the end of the year that move forward into the current balance. B1 combining income statement for the building fund and child nutrition fund. I want you to notice how much money you collect in your building fund. $664,000. That's what you get on ad valorem money. With $664,000, you really can't build a lot. You're lucky to be able to maintain and do maintenance within the facilities you have. So the building fund or the building bonds that you have sold in the previous years is what's really made the difference in what you can build within your district, because you can only make capital expenditures, construction items, out of the building fund and a bond fund. You don't collect enough money in there at one time to do a lot with that building fund. So since you've had those bond issues and the community's back to you, that's a really good, says a really good statement about you and your district and your community, because you really can't do much with the building fund anymore. You don't have enough money in there. But it shows the major sources of revenues for the two funds, the major types of expenditures, excess of revenues collected over or under expenditures, any transfers we had in or out. We transferred out 250, we brought 264 back in to the child nutrition. Add these increases to your beginning balances, and it shows what your ending balance was for each one of those fund types. Schedule C1 is a budget to actual again for the building fund and child nutrition. Again, it shows an original final budget and the actual that we just went over. The total column then is what shows up on Exhibit C under special revenue. I know I talk quickly. When I start, it just kind of falls out. But if you have a question, please ask. Schedule 2 is 2 pages. These are your activity funds. These are the sub-accounts you have approved as a board. It approves how they can raise the money and how they can spend the money. With the amount of money that we have, you can see that we collected $725. We spent $709,000. There's a lot of money that goes through the activity fund. That's almost as much money. That's more money than you collect in your building fund. This is cash. This is our highest risk. So things that go on here, people have to be trained what to do, then they have to be trained again, and they have to be reminded. Each one of these sub-accounts has a sponsor. That sponsor has to receipt the money they bring in on a daily basis within their own receipt book. That receipt then is then turned into the custodians that can be deposited with that day or within a day. Also on an expenditure, you've already proved how they can make the expenditure. They have to turn in a request saying this is what we want to buy. And when they do that, it's not to just say supplies and materials. It's supposed to be broken out as to what they want to buy, because it's not a shopping spree. This is saying, this is what I want to go get, and this is what I'm going to do. There should be a list of what they want and how much those items cost. That'll be approved. Once it's approved, they can make that purchase. Once they make that purchase, they have to have an itemized receipt showing exactly what it was and signed by who will receive those goods or services. If we can't find those items, we have to know who to talk to find out where they went. On the receipt side of it, it's not a penalty. It's actually a safeguard for them. Because if that money goes away and it never gets to the school, who's responsible for it? The school never received it. The parent doesn't want to pay it again. The student won't want to pay it again. So if it's lost, that teacher would have to pay for it. And I promise you, if you leave that on your desk, in your purse, on your truck, somewhere else, you do that long enough and enough, there will become a need, and that money will go away. So for them, they really need to make sure they get these items turned in. There's a lot of people here you can see that have to be trained. There's 2 pages of people that have to be trained. You have to train them again, then you have to remind them, and then you get new people in. You have to start over and do it again. So it's a continuing basis, but it's a lot of money that goes through that activity fund. Page 201's a combining statement that shows on a regulatory basis that we do reconcile with the bank. It shows the depository and what the ledger has. We did have $914 still outstanding in 17-18. If that's still outstanding, we can go in and stop that and bring it forward, because that money's lost. It's probably gone through the washing machine, or somebody's lost it, or it's been thrown in the trash. If it's been out that long, it's probably gone. We can bring that money back into the sub-account that was originally written from. Page 15, your scheduled expenditures of federal awards. The left-hand column shows titles for the different programs you have. The last 5 columns then deal with the dollars that are associated with those programs. When we started the year, we had an accrued balance of $11,000. During the year, we collected $725, we spent $729. If it had been $750,000, you fall into the whole new category. It's called uniform guidance. At that point in time, your administration has to do a lot more work, and we have to do a whole lot more work as the audit goes. So, from my standpoint, I'm checking your federal programs, but not having to do the uniform guidance, I really appreciate that, and thank you. Next year, I don't know what it's going to be, because if we get into a situation where the federal government gives us some additional dollars, this may go up. But in the same aspect, we may have a position where the federal government won't have the money to give us on the programs we have now, so we don't know what that dollar amount's going to be. But anytime you spend more than $750,000, it increases what your district has to report and what we have to do as an audit. At the end of the period, we had an accrued balance of $15,000. That's money we had spent, but we had not received from the state or federal government yet. The reason we haven't received that is because if we don't have an encumbrance and a warrant by June 2nd, we won't get that money back and reimbursed to us from the state or the federal government by June 30. We don't have that because some of these items might be payroll, some of these may be supplies or materials that we've ordered but we haven't received, so we haven't issued a warrant yet. That means that we're not going to get that reimbursement. We have since received those monies during the current year. Page 16 and 17 is when we check everything else on the audit. This is when we go over internal control and compliance and other matters on your district. We look at your policies and procedures, the state, the federal governments. We go through those policies on how you can spend the money, when you can receive it. Have the collections been put in the right year? Are they put in the right fund? Are the policies there to make sure everything's received correctly? The purchase orders, do we have a requisition? Do we have an invoice? Is it signed? We look at payroll. We look at teacher retirement. We look at your board minutes. We look at your bids. We interview different people that are associated with these items to make sure that they know what they're doing. So there's a number of different items that we go through and we check to make sure that your policies, the state and the federal governments, are being correctly followed. We found 2 different items we brought to the administration's attention that are considered these significant deficiencies. They're not material in the statements, but they're items that need to be addressed as to how policies are being followed. They're going to be on page 18. This is where you wanted me to start, but I want to go over the rest of it because there's certain items in here that I think are important that you all know about, even though you see the report probably monthly on these items. The first one dealt with pre-numbered receipts were not always utilized by the activity fund sponsors, were not turned into the activity fund custodian on a timely basis. This is something that needs to be addressed for everybody, and you need to address the sponsors that are doing. It isn't necessarily the custodian's fault. It's the different people out there that are collecting the money and turning it in. They just need to follow specific procedures that are established by the State Department of Education and also by your school district. During my examination of the 60 activity fund expenditures, I noted 2 requisitions did not have invoices attached. 8 invoices were dated before the requisition. A requisition and a request has to be turned in before a purchase can be made. And anytime we made a purchase, we don't make that payment until we actually have an invoice in hand to make that purchase. It doesn't seem like a lot of things, but when you look at it as to the number that we look at, because it's not an investigative audit, it's a financial overview, that's more than 10% when you look at that on the number that we looked at. So it's important that these things are addressed to the sponsors within the activity fund on both of these items. I go through this quickly. I tell you a lot. I guess it's my second political statement. You have a good fund balance. You have money that's there right now. But if y'all been watching, the state revenues are down. Oil and gas is down. The federal government's giving money to everybody and probably not going to give it to education like they have in the past. So the money that you have, pay attention to what you've got and be conservative about it. You don't need to start anything real big until we know what's going to happen within the next 2 years. It's not just this year, it's going to be within another year also. It's my personal opinion, but seeing what's gone on in the past and how things have gone on, I feel like that's something I need to address. Now that I've said a whole bunch, does anybody have any questions?
I don't think so. Thank you, Pat.
I appreciate it. Thank you for meeting with me. I sent two forms. One's to be signed by the superintendent and the board president. Another one's to be signed by the superintendent and all the board members. I have to have that, plus a copy of the agenda and a copy of these board minutes unsigned, because even though I'm required to be there, the state requires, the federal government requires it, the state board of education wants proof that I'm here. So I have to send, I guess they could video this and I could send it in, that shows that I'll be there. But they really need, I really need to have those things back when you get them, so make sure everybody signs them and gets notarized and sent back to me so I can send this to the state, and that makes everybody happy. Appreciate you for doing this. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Pat.
All right. Now I gotta figure out how to turn it off.
Let's do it separate.
Okay, right. Here, a motion to accept the audit report as presented. I would make that motion.
Second. Hanson,
Yes.
Kane,
Yes.
McDermott,
Yes.
Parker,
Yes.
Slater. Yes.
3.2, discussion with possible board action, vote to approve a resolution for schools and libraries, universal services, E-rate, in the 2020-21 school year. This resolution authorizes filing of the Form 471 applications for funding year 2021 and the payment of the applicant's share upon approval of funding and receipt of services.
This is our, I want to thank Trevor Gordon, our new IT. He's worked very closely with Kellogg and Sovereign, our consulting company. It's got this paperwork turned in a timely manner. This is for our E-rate. We've used this in the past for infrastructure, our internet, access points, Wi-Fi for our sites. And this will continue to be really critical and important as we move on in the years to come. So I would recommend that we approve this item agenda.
All right, make the motion that we approve the resolution for schools and libraries universal services E-rate for 2020, 2021.
Second.
Slater. Yes. Parker,
Yes.
McDermott,
Yes.
Kane,
Yes.
Hanson.
Yes.
3.3, discussion with possible board action to approve the execution of a corrected quitclaim deed to correct an erroneous legal description contained in a quitclaim deed previously executed by the district on June 22nd, 1969, and recorded in the office of the Woods County Clerk on Book 282, page 500.
So the way I understand this, this was some land that the school district had in 1917 and sold it in 1969, and the book was incorrect, and through the oil and gas industry as it is now, found that error and is asking for board approval to make that change in the book. It doesn't affect us in any way other than legally changing in the legal description, so I would recommend its approval.
So moved.
Second.
Hanson,
Yes.
Kane,
Yes.
McDermott,
Aye.
Parker,
Yes.
Slater. Yes.
Before signing of documents approved by earlier action, we have some things to sign according to our auditor. And otherwise, do I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
I'll second.